Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us this afternoon, where we will be carrying out another one of our Microsoft update sessions that we've been doing with many of our customers over the last few weeks. And the one that we're going to do today is on Microsoft Azure. I'm delighted today to be joined by Microsoft Azure specialist Michael Fletcher, who's going to be working with me today while we try and step you through the basics of Azure, how it operates, and how it might be applicable for you to utilize within your business. So as usual, we normally start with telling you a little bit about us. Some of you are already customers of ours and some of you may be potential customers, but in all instances, we believe that we're here to help you, particularly in today's environments. We work with our customers to find solutions to IT problems that you may have, and we're always at hand to fully support you in any questions that you may have and to ensure that you make the best of the solutions that we provide for you. So as we said, today's session is going to be on Azure, and joined by Michael. My first question, which I'm sure many other people have asked Michael, is what is Azure? We hear a lot about it from Microsoft. It's very high profile at the moment. Can you tell us a little bit about it, what it actually is?
Hi Chris, yeah, it's good to be here. So Azure, it's basically Microsoft's vision of a multi-region, multi-tenanted private and public cloud data center that they've established now globally. Offering certain things like compute storage and networking offerings to migrate people's businesses from a current on-premise sort of solution that a lot of people generally have at the moment into the cloud.
Great. So it's an integrated hosted cloud solution provided by Microsoft. Okay.
Yes.
Great. So how does the system work? How does it kind of operate and deliver to a customer?
So there's a few mechanisms regarding that. So Microsoft's backend is basically a plethora of physical blade servers within any given data center, which has virtualized hardware in a set of solutions that hypervise resources for clients in order for them to utilize to build up their own basically data center in the cloud.
Right, so that's a big word there, hypervisor. So that effectively means that a number of applications are layered together to provide a solution, I think. So what would be the kind of applications that would be available effectively out of the box with Azure?
So with Azure out of the box, you can get your standard virtualized desktops, virtualized servers. You get a few other mechanisms that you can utilize, like remote desktops, remote applications, and it all is customizable to the client depending on what they want to utilize and how they want to utilize it within the cloud environment.
So it's really a bit like a toolkit of solutions that you can put together to fulfill what a customer's application would be. Would you say that?
Yeah, absolutely. Probably the best case scenario would be to explain it as like a Lego bricks solution. So you could basically add on or take away parts of an architecture that will benefit your business at a time, and then remove stuff when it doesn't.
Great. One of the functions that is available that I think may well be of interest to a number of our listeners today is the virtual desktop. Now, virtual desktop's been around in a variety of different guises for some considerable time. Perhaps you could tell us a little bit about how that operates within Azure.
Yeah. So virtual desktop brings people's on-prem desktop into the cloud, utilizing obviously a plethora of mechanisms again to allow businesses to give their remote workers or people off-site access to a machine in the cloud.
Brilliant. I mean, my view, which I'd be interested in yours, is one that, particularly with the current environment that we're in, with many of us and all of our team today on this call are all working from home, is that the virtual desktop, I think, is going to come into its own. It's ideal for remote workers. I think it provides a significant amount of functionality, security, and overall control to organizations. And now the product itself being hosted and supported as an integral part of a Microsoft solution, I think that will take down the barriers of entry to that for many of our customers. And although we're not going to cover in detail today virtual desktop, I'm sure we'd all be delighted to take calls and answer questions on that as a follow-up to that. So moving on from desktop, perhaps we can talk a little bit about how we can actually use the file server capabilities of Azure and how that operates. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Azure offerings of different sets of storage capabilities. So we have like hot storage archive, which is cold or warm storage, blob, and then obviously we have other options as well, to standard or premium sort of storage. And you know, there's mechanisms around that which you can specify exactly where that storage is held, especially if for our clients want it just based within the UK or just want it based within Europe. And then safeguarding that, you have cryptographic keys, which allows us to be able to make sure that that storage is safe from obviously outside interference.
Brilliant. So moving on a little bit from there, a word that comes up a lot is scalability, and I'm going to ask you about that in a moment. But I think there are two areas here. I think one is upscale and one is downscale. I think many of our users may have experienced in the past, either within on-premise solutions and indeed particularly on early cloud-based solutions, that one can either have huge amounts of resources available to the organization that are actually not being utilized at one moment, and in another moment not have sufficient resources available to deliver the level of service. So how does Microsoft Azure work in that kind of upwards and downward scalability function?
Yeah, so I mean, I've seen this in many cases where companies obviously get a massive surge in clientele hitting their systems, and all of a sudden they realize that they're struggling. Now, with Azure, you have scale sets, which will allow you to have basically weighted systems that you're not paying for at the time, that can scale up as usage becomes higher. And then obviously when that usage then dissipates and the clientele or the surge stops happening, you can scale that right back down, automatically saving you heavily on financial costs of the system.
So therefore, so for instance, in a working day, you may be able to have a higher level of capacity because that's the time frame when all of the team are operating, but perhaps overnight or at holidays, bank holidays, weekends, etc., it may be that the system downscales at that point. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's exactly correct.
Brilliant. So that means that that Azure is a very flexible solution in terms of how that works. Now, one of the questions that always comes up for me with this kind of technology is the great words fear, uncertainty, and doubt. So if I start to build applications on these solutions, which are mission critical to me and my business, and without them, my business would cease to fail. How is Azure able to deliver a continuity of service that gives me the level of reliability that I know I'm going to need if I start to utilize an application that's running within the Azure platform?
Yeah, so straight out the bat, Azure has reliability functions put in place. I mean, if we look at the infrastructure itself, so they're sat on clustered servers. So if any one server becomes unstable, basically all your resource will move to a more stable resource. And in its effect as well, you also have capabilities to make sure that your systems are backed up, or you could replicate to another data center. So all these mechanisms are in place right from the bat. They just need configuration, which
Great. So that's so effectively we've got what we would call a non-stop solution at this point. So having gone through scalability, having gone through reliability, and obviously we've covered some of the core functions that are available within the product. Let's talk a little bit about management, how the system's managed. And perhaps I don't have the expertise within my own company in enable me to be able to manage that. So in those situations, how is the system managed, and what might be SMS able to be able to do to assist our customers in terms of the management of an Azure-based solution?
Yeah, so SMS is obviously a great team of technical experts here that work on Azure for clients as well. So, I mean, if you haven't got your own specific team, you can trust that SMS obviously has that knowledge, has the Microsoft Gold Partner status and certification to be able to assist in whatever problems or complexities that you may have within the solution. So, yeah.
So, okay, brilliant. So we can help, okay, our customers in terms of how the system is managed and enable us to put that together. Okay, so great. What I want to do now is to talk about a couple of questions that I'm sure will come up. I've heard about the solution. I understand its reliability, its scalability, the management functions that are available within it, and we've covered in overview, which is the remit of this webinar today, some of the basic functionality that's available. But how much is it going to cost me? And where's my data going to be held? These are key things I think that I would want to know.
Yeah, so data location obviously is predefined by the client themselves as to that pick a region or a location as to where you want to specify that location is set. That can be done pre-build. And in regards to cost, see, this would really depend on your solution. And I think this is where SMS sort of highlights themselves a little bit, is that we can actually come to yourselves and we can scale out your solution for you. And during this process as well, while you're utilizing the solution, we could right size it so that you're never in a position where your cost is beyond what you're using. So I think within that scenario, you can be assured that we will always obviously be making sure that we watch out for your platform.
Great. So in effect, a potential customer that's looking at Azure with SMS, we can understand what the initial scope is of what you're trying to achieve, and then of course we can design an Azure-based solution around that, put the component parts together, and as part of assembling that will enable us firstly to work out what the ongoing cost is going to be for that solution, and secondly, with regards to backup of data and configuration, we can ensure that data is held in data centers, which are a requisite part of a customer's requirement. Thank you very much. I mean, that I think gives us a really good overview or taster of what you can do with Azure. Of course, it's a very complicated product with a vast amount of functionality in it, and the remit of today is to give you an overview of what we're doing there, and really hopefully to be able to open further discussions with you about how you may utilize Azure in the future, what level of functionality it may be able to give you, and what benefits that you might get from that. We at SMS, of course, we've been here, as we always say, since 2006. We are a Microsoft specialist. We do provide complementary products to our Microsoft solutions where required, but our heart is in delivering Microsoft cloud solutions. We're fully based in the UK, as our help desk, which is obviously always online, and you can get hold of us either directly after this call or any time in the future that you would like to. Our contact details and support lines are on this slide, and following this are our email address and website details on the following slide. So in essence, you are able to get hold of us and discuss this further. So thank you very much for spending some time with us today. I hope we've been able to give you in brief an overview of Microsoft Azure, what its key functionality is, how it might be applicable to your business, how we can work with you to be able to deploy such a solution, and hopefully that will make your business more efficient. Thank you very much for spending the time with us today. Keep yourself and your family safe, and we look forward to seeing you again on another one of the Simply Mail Solutions webinars. Thank you and goodbye.